Enes Kanter freedom.
Okay, wow. First of all, thank you guys for being here. Actually, it's my first time in San Diego, and I visited so many cities and states and, around America, but I never, visited San Diego, so this is my first time. And I have a brother who plays basketball overseas. He came to United States this summer to just vacation and go around and just see what America's about. He called me actually on the phone. He said, "Well, when I'm retired from basketball, I want to live in San Diego." And I was just very shocked. I was like, "What's so good about San Diego?" And we literally had like a 1 hour conversation. So this is my first time here, and I didn't have a chance to go around and stuff, but I will soon. But I want to say thank you, Omar. Thank you everybody who invited me here. It's definitely an honor to be here. So, I first of all I want to start you guys. Tell you guys about my childhood story a little bit because it is very interesting and very. I'll tell you guys about it so you guys can decide. But I born in Switzerland, and I moved back. I moved to Turkey when I was 9 months, and I grew up in Turkey, and while I was growing up, Turkey was having some troubles. It was going through some very tough times politically. I remember I was 8 years old. I tell this story everywhere I go because to me it is one of the craziest stories that I had in my life. I was 8 years old. I remember I went downstairs to play with my friends. And what I witnessed that day, what I saw with that day, it just shocked me so badly that I still cannot forget till this day. I'm 30 years old. It's been 22 years now. I went downstairs and I remember all my friends who are the same age as me were burning American flags. They were burning Israeli flags. They were telling me to hate America. They were telling me to hate Israel. They were telling me to American people are devil. They were telling me the Jewish people are evil. You can never trust them. They give me an Israeli flag to burn it, right? And I got so scared, I didn't know what to do. I threw it on the ground. I ran upstairs to my apartment, and I told my mom. I was like, "Mom, my friends downstairs are telling me to hate America, to hate Israel, to hate Jewish people. They're evil, they're bad." I'm like, "What do I do?" My mom was like, "I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do not hate anyone before you meet him." So I give a promise to my mom that day. I'm not going to hate anybody, anyone. I don't care who they are, what color they are, what religion they are, what culture. I'm not going to hate, right? And so I was 8 years old. So the reason is because in Turkey or some of the countries in the Middle East, if you want to be elected in office, you do two things. You attack Israel, you attack America. You hold rallies, and just because of the base is so uneducated, right? When you attack America or Israel, the base is like, wow, look at our leader. He's standing strong against America. He's standing strong against Israel. So let's vote for him. So they literally using that hate to brainwash people. And I grew up in an area like that. So if you guys have any friends from Middle East, you guys can ask them. So some of the countries in Middle East schools, in front of classes, they have flags. They have American flags and they have Israeli flag. In front of every houses that we had, there's a sign called welcome. Well, in front of classes in Middle East, they have American flag and they have Israeli flag. And if you were a kid, and if you don't step on it, you cannot attend the classes. So before you go into classes, you have to step on American flag, step on Israeli flag, and you go and attend the class. And that's how crazy that is. I grew up in an area, I grew up in that environment. So anyway, I promised my mom that day, right? I was 8 years old. 9 years later, I wanted to be an NBA player, and my dad made me a promise. he said, I'm gonna let you play basketball, but I want you to be a good student before being a good basketball player, because basketball comes and goes. I want you to be, educated. So I made a promise to my dad. So in Turkey, you cannot really do both. You either have to pick education or basketball. So I wanted to come to America. My dad wanted me to come to America because so I can go to school, play basketball at the same time. So I went to high school around LA. I went to college in Kentucky, and then I got drafted. I remember the first time, coming to America. Obviously, I was super nervous. I got in a flight. My flight, was gonna land in Chicago, and right before it lands, I got so scared and nervous. I just didn't know what to expect. So my flight landed. The next day, I went to the gym. I was gonna, work out and stuff. And there's two gentlemen, two Americans, came to me and wanted to speak with me. And I got so scared, I turned around and started to run away because I didn't know what to expect. Then I remember the promise that I gave to my mom, and then I went back. The next day, I said sorry. I sit down. I was like, "What's up?" Well, they said, "Well, we just want you to be, comfortable in America. We know that it's your first day, and if you would like to go to a mosque, we will take you." And I was very confused. I'm like, that is so weird. And then they took me to a mosque. They took me to a mosque. They took me to some restaurants where I can eat halal food. They took me to some places where I can live my culture and where I can live my, religion freely. And these were Christian people, Christians, Americans. And I was like, something is weird here. I was just very confused. And I remember first time meeting with a Jewish community. I had a friend, she was Jewish, right? And we become good friends somehow. I didn't know she was Jewish, or I probably wouldn't become friends with her because I just didn't know any better about the Jewish community. Later on, she told me that she was Jewish. So we become really good friends with her. She invited me over to a Shabbat dinner, right? And I called so many of my friends. I'm like, are they gonna try to brainwash me? I was like so confused. I'm like, what is she trying to do? I was talking to one of my friends. I'm like, he was like, dude, just make sure they don't put anything in your food. You know what I mean? I promise you, this is not a joke. I called so many of my friends and said, I'm going to eat Shabbat dinner in a Jewish family. If you don't hear from me in 3 hours, call the cops. This is not a joke, this is a reality. I said, if you don't hear anything from me for 3 hours, call the cops. Because just think about it. Just think about the propaganda that I lived in the last 17 years. I just don't know any better. I just thought that they're just gonna take me to their houses and they're gonna try to brainwash me. They might put something in my drink and they might, I just didn't know what to expect. Anyway, I was like, I remember the promise to my mom. I was like, you know what, okay, I'm gonna go. I went there, before the dinner, the prayer pretty much like took 30 minutes. We waited for they sang, they said some beautiful prayers, and then we started to eat, right? And half of dinner, I asked them, I was like, are you guys half Turkish? Because everything was pretty much the same, the food, the culture, the music, the dances, even like some of the words that they were saying was like pretty much the same. So I thought to myself, I'm like, then why fight? Then why do we fight? So then I, signed Boston Celtics, and I become friends with the Consul General of Israel to Boston, and he invited me to a Holocaust Remembrance Day. And they said, well, because you always hear about the Holocaust, but I just don't know any better. I know that there were millions of people dead, but I just didn't know enough about it. So anyway, I was like, okay, I'll come. That's another step for me. Think about it. It was only one family. Now I'm going into a room full of Jewish people. So anyway, I went to the event, and I remember sitting down, having a conversation with the Consul General, and I was eating some kosher food. While I was eating kosher food, one of these this old lady, she was 90 years old. Later on, I learned that she was a Holocaust survivor. She's in a wheelchair. She came to me and she stopped and she stared at me, right? I looked down, I was like, hi. And she was like, well, I've never seen a Jewish this tall before. I was like, ma'am, you are so sweet, but I'm not Jewish. And she was like, what are you? I was like, well, I am Muslim. And she just changed her face. She's like, so then what are you doing here? I was like, well, I'm here to learn, And she started to cry. That day, what I learned, I could never forget. Because you always hear about the Holocaust, but you just don't know any better. And I was like, obviously Jewish people will fight so hard so it will never happen again, but I think it's our job, it's the Muslim community's job, it's the Christian community, or whoever you are, it's job to join the Jewish community so it will never happen again.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so I had a conversation actually after that. It was beginning of something beautiful because I started this initiative in New York. Now we are teaching in Muslim schools about Holocaust. It's an initiative, and it's just, I had a conversation with some of the students already, and they are loving it. And I was like, I want to take this to the next level. As someone Muslim in America, just a very well-known Muslim, practicing Muslim, I want to go to Israel. A lot of people are telling me that I'm crazy. A lot of people are told me that you will lose so much credit. A lot of people told me that it will be the biggest mistake of your life, right? But I had this dream in my head where, political people will do what's, I guess, good or best for them. But I feel like if you want to shape the future, we have to educate our young generation, right? And the best way to do it, use sports, use basketball. Because I remember, I don't know if you guys are a Knicks fan or not, if there's a Knicks fan out here. So when we were with the Knicks, when I was with the Knicks, Knicks likes to, bring and draft international players. So we had players in that locker room. We had players from all over the world, different cultures, different religions, different ethnicities, color, everything, right? But we left our differences on the table in the locker room and trying to find what we have in common, and then made us better teammates. Not better players, but better teammates. That built an amazing chemistry. So I was like, let's use it to bring people together. And the best way to do it in Israel, This was my dream for the last 2 years, and finally it happened. Literally, I just came from Israel like a week ago. Oops.
Mazel tov.
So it's all good. So I just came from Israel, but first they took me to Jerusalem, right? And I remember going to there's only one YMC in Jerusalem. I don't know if you guys know or not, but I went into, there's videos all over. You guys can watch it on my social media, but I went into the gym, and I was like, I looked around, I'm like, there are kids from all over the world, from all over Middle East. I was seeing kids from, Christians and Jewish people and Muslim and Druzis and Israelis and Palestinians. I was like, this is the world that I'm like looking for. So I remember there was a moment we were playing 5-on-5 with the kids. I got the rebound. I passed the ball to this Jewish kid. He crossed someone over. He passed to the Palestinian girl, and she scored a ball. She was coming back, and they high-fived each other. I was like, this. I had thousands of basketball camps. I was like, this moment was the best moment that I've ever had in my whole life. So and then I learned about her story. She was Palestinian, and she didn't want to come to Israel to do a basketball camp. But her family, I'm glad her family was very, I guess, well educated and said this is not about that. This is about playing basketball and learning from each other and sharing the moment together. And she said no, and then she learned that I'm gonna be there, so she showed up. And a week later, she went to her coach and apologized in front of all her teammates and said, sorry guys, I was, thinking about Israel and Jewish food very differently. But I came here, I spent a week with you guys, and this was the best the brotherhood and whatever you guys call it that I've ever had. So that really touched my heart. And then they took me to Tel Aviv. I wish they took me to Tel Aviv first and then Jerusalem. I could ask forgiveness for my sins, because it was, I don't want to go into too much details. It was the craziest couple of days of my life. I had so much fun. Anyway, but then I went to Haifa, right? It was another amazing time with people. But then I went to all cities. You know, then I went to the Western Wall and prayed. I remember there was this the head rabbi who was, I guess, leading the whole prayer there, and then he looked at me. He's like, "You don't look Jewish." I'm like, "I'm not Jewish. I'm Muslim." And he's like, "Okay, why are you here?" I was like, "I'm here to pray." And I had a rabbi with me. Actually, my rabbi told I guess the head rabbi about my story, and he started to cry. Then he went to the wall and prayed for me. You know, it was a beautiful moment. Then I went there. Then I went to the Al-Aqsa and Dome of the Rock. Then I went to the Christian side and Armenian side. It was an amazing time. And I came here. I was like, what I have seen there, we have to do the same thing in America. You know, I remember, we're talking about, Abraham Accords. I want to add another A. It's like a triple A, Abrahamic Accords. How beautiful that sounds, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
So now I want to talk to you guys about my little basketball career, and then I'll be done, so you guys can ask me any question you want. So I talk about some of the problems that are happening around the world. I get drafted by Utah Jazz, and my first 2 years, only thing I cared about was just playing basketball and having fun with my teammates. And then later on, my third year in the league, there was a big corruption scandal happening in Turkey. President Erdogan and some of his family members was involved in it. And he started to go around and put innocent people in jail, prosecutors, judges, lawyers, police who caught him. And he started to go around and shutting down media outlets, shutting down newspapers and TV channels, this and that. And I was like, I don't care who you are, but if you're fighting against a free media, I'm going to say something about it. So as a basketball player, I put a tweet out there, right? Because of the NBA platform, it became a conversation. And I was like, even one simple tweet can affect this much. From now on, I'm going to start paying attention about what's going on in my country more. So, and then later on, I remember my teammates and my friends were going out, having fun. I was going back to my house and started to study about what's going on, about Turkey and America, Middle East. And the more I studied, the more big platforms started to give me a voice, and I started to speak up. And, some of the things that are happening in Turkey is not like in America. When you talk about some of the problems that are happening there, there's going to be consequences. So, first, my dad was a scientist. And just because of the things that I talk about, and I don't even talk about politics. I talk about freedom of political prisoners, I talk about the human rights violations, and I talk about all the undemocratic moves that Turkey is doing. And it does affect the whole region and Middle East, I'm sure you guys know. So first, my dad was a scientist, and he got fired from his job, just because I talk about the problems that are happening there. Second, my sister went to medical school for 6 years. Till this day, she still cannot find a job. I think the saddest one was my little brother, because he wanted to be like his big brother, an NBA player. He was getting kicked out of every team because of the same last name. And he asked me one day, he's like, I'm the best player in my team. I'm the tallest one in my team. Why am I keep getting kicked out? I couldn't explain it, just because you carry the same last name. So they were getting affected so much, they had to put a statement out there and saying we are disowning Enes publicly. The letter is still on the internet, you guys can find it. Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey and they raided the whole house. And they took every electronics away. Phones, computers, laptops, iPads, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. They couldn't find no evidence, but they still took my dad in jail for a while. After, we put so much pressure, thanks to, God, obviously, first, and DC and media, we put so much pressure, they had to let him go. After he got out, I asked my brother, how's he doing? In Turkey, if you're someone who's not high profile, you'll be tortured and raped. But if you're someone high profile, they will give you chemicals to mess up with your brain. So I asked my brother, how's he doing? He said, he watches the walls, he never acts, sometimes he doesn't talk days. And when we ask him what happened in there, he never talks about it, ever. So then, they revoked my passport, they declared me as the enemy of the state, and they put my name on Interpol list. Till this day, I still consider as an international criminal. Till this day. My name was on Interpol list. I could not, and I was not an American citizen. I couldn't leave America for 6 years. 6 years. I couldn't even go to, outside of America. So and then, right now there's obviously the last 8-9 years. Last time I saw them was back in 2015, and last time I talked with them, I can't even remember. I talk about the problems were happening in Turkey, right? The NBA really supported me. Adam Silver, the commissioner, players, and coaches really supported me. They said, whatever you need, we are here for you. We got your back. Keep doing what you're doing. And then one day, just last summer, I'm doing a basketball camp for kids. We had an amazing basketball camp in New York. All the kids were lined up. After the basketball camp, I'm giving autographs and taking pictures one by one. And I took a picture with this kid, and his parents called me out in front of everybody. There was media there, kids, parents, everybody. He said, how can you call yourself a human rights activist when your Muslim brothers and sisters are getting tortured and raped every day in concentration camps in China? And I'm still smiling for the camera. I took a picture with this kid, I turned around, I said, I promise I'm gonna get back to you. So that day I canceled everything. I went back to my hotel, I started to study about what's going on. And I started with the Uyghurs, and I went to Tibetans, Hong Kongers, Mongolians, I went to Taiwanese people, I see what they were going through. And I was like, I don't care who you are, but I'm gonna go out there and be the voice of these people. But on internet, you can find all kind of news. You don't know which one to believe or not. So I called my manager, I was like, I need you to find me a concentration camp survivor. And he was very shocked. He said, what are you talking about? He said, well, I need you to find me a survivor so I can sit down and talk to her. So we found one, we sit down, we started having a conversation with her, and she was telling me about the torture methods, the gang rape. She was telling me about the forced sterilization and abortion, and she was telling me about how many people actually dies in every week in those concentration camps. And I was like, I don't care who you are. She was telling me about the organ harvesting. I was like, I don't care about, I don't care how much money or business, whatever involved, but you have to stand up for these innocent people. End of our conversation, I asked her, what can I do to help you? She said, I don't need your help, I'm good. I was like, what do you mean? So why do we have this 1 hour conversation for no reason? She said, no, I'm in America. I'm good, I can eat, I can sleep, I can say whatever I want to say freely. But there are millions of people in concentration camps waiting for you to help those people. So at that moment, I was like, okay, I'm in, I wanted to do it in a very unique way. I could have just gone on a show to talk about it. I could have just tweet about it. But I remember when I was a kid, you just can't ask any young kids over here today. Whenever I watched an NBA game, the first thing I was watching and looking was the shoes. What color is the shoes? What brand it is, if they're comfortable or not. The next day I was waking up and telling my dad, please buy those shoes for me, So I come up with this idea. I was like, let's reach out to these artists around the world, where they've been oppressed by their government. And let's find them and let's put all their emotions, all their struggles, all their everything on the shoes, and we go out there and play. And I looked, there was not even one rule against it. Because 2 years ago, if you guys remember, when all the protests were happening, and Black Lives Matter and stuff, all these players were putting on their shoes, Black Lives Matter, I Can't Breathe, Breonna Taylor and everything. So I was like, okay, there's no rule against it, Even NBA took one step ahead. They put the logos on the floor and phrases behind our jersey, which was controlled by the NBA. We couldn't pick what we wanted to pick. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. So I'm sure you guys follow basketball. Our first game, Boston Celtics, was against New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Opening night for the Knicks. It was on ESPN. It was a perfect game. So I put my shoes on. I went out there and I'm warming up. And all my teammates were looking at my shoes. I'm like, these shoes looks very weird. My first topic was free Tibet. That's the only thing I put on my shoes, free Tibet. And we sang the national anthem. We came in a team huddle. And there was 1 minute left for the game start. There was two gentlemen. The game hasn't started yet. There was two gentlemen came from the league. They were working for Boston Celtics. They said, please take your shoes off. And I was very confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, your shoes has been getting so much attention internationally. Obviously, it was from China. You have to take your shoes off. It was the perfect moment because I was just getting ready for my citizenship test. So while they were talking, I closed my eyes, right? I was like, okay. There are 27 amendments. My first amendment, freedom of speech. Seriously. This is while they were talking still. And I was like, no, I'm not taking them off. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, this is my freedom of speech. This is my first amendment. I'm not taking them off, right? And I was like, I don't care. Go tell your boss. Even if I get fined, I'm not taking them off. They said, we are not talking about a fine. We're talking about getting banned. Think about it. Getting banned. So, first half ended. I went to my locker room. I picked up my phone. There was thousands of notifications because of the shoes. I scrolled down, clicked on the one that my manager sent to me. He said, every Boston Celtics game is banned in China on television. It took China 24 minutes. Think about it. First quarter, 12 minutes. Second quarter, 12 minutes. It took them 24 minutes to ban every Celtics game on television the rest of the year. I texted him. I was like, well, that actually clearly helps me a lot. So that game I played 0 minutes. 0. Which I played every game before that. Every game before that. After the game, NBPA, the Player Union Club, which I pay thousands of dollars every year to protect my rights against NBA. They said, you know what you did. You can never wear those shoes ever again. NBA is pressuring us. Do not wear those shoes ever again. I asked them, am I breaking any rules? They said, no, but you cannot wear those shoes ever again. I talk about the problems were happening in Turkey the last 10 years. I did not get one phone call. I talk about the problems were happening in China. Not even a day, one night, one game. My phone was ringing once every hour. It got to a point they were harassing me and my manager so much. I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm not gonna wear free Tibet shoes ever again. You got it. I hang up the phone. The next game, I wore free Uyghur shoes. Right? So they called me after the game. They said, you're a liar, you're this, you're that. I'm like, first of all, I never said I'm not going to wear free Uyghur shoes. I just said I'm just not going to wear free Tibet shoes. At that moment, they understand they're not going to be able to, deal with me. Because I'm sure you guys remember 2 years ago when the general manager of Houston Rockets tweeted something and said free Hong Kong. It became a huge mess for the NBA. They made him took his tweet down. They made him apologize. They put two statements out there. The one was for the world, was saying we stand with our employee, we care about free speech and blah blah. The other one, not many people know, was for the Chinese government, saying he was not educated enough, he didn't know enough about the situation. We want to say sorry for our Chinese fans. So after the second game, he texted me, and he said they made me apologize. They made me took my tweet down. You don't take your tweet down. You don't apologize. You keep doing what you're doing because this is the right thing to do. And that gave me so much actually courage. After the second game, I don't want to give you guys his name, but one of the all-stars who was in my team, Boston Celtics, walked up to me in the locker room and said, you know this is your last year in NBA, right? You're not gonna be able to dribble the basketball ever again after this year. That's it. I was like, wow, this guy's literally telling me this is it. He said, I hope you win a championship, smile, because enjoy your moment because this is your last year in the league. It was the perfect moment because it was right before the Beijing Olympics. So I literally try to reach out to not just people from the NBA, but NFL, MLB, MLB. I literally try to reach out to every organization, association possible. I even try to reach out to Olympians. I was like, listen, do not be part of the propaganda. You are not going there to compete. You are going there to become a part of propaganda. You're going to become a part of genocide. So do not do it. They all said the same thing to me. They said, listen, man, I think what you're doing is so amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. We love you. We support you, but we just cannot do it out loud. I asked them why. They said, well, we have shoe deals, we have endorsement deals, we have jersey sales, we have, we want to get another contract. I asked them one question. Put yourself in their shoes. If your mother, if your sister, if your daughter was in those concentration camps getting tortured, not rape, gang rape every day, would you still pick money over your morals, principles, and values? They usually don't even answer. They turn around and walk back. And they said, this is your last contract. You lost everything. And it was true. Listen, I just turned 30 years old, and someone from a player from my level will sign around $7 to $8 million, right? And if I were to play another like 6 years, that's $48 million. With endorsement deals and everything, that's $50 million. Just because of, I want to stand up for what I believe in. But this was the right thing to do because someone had to open the door. I was seeing the hypocrisy in the NBA, what was happening in the NBA, right? February, I got released. I don't want to say released, I got fired, And after I got fired, what broke my heart the most was I played 11 years in this league. 11 years. I had hundreds of teammates, hundreds of coaches, assistant coaches, people from the front office, NBA office. Not one of them texted me. Not one of them said, hey man, good luck with your next chapter. Good job with what you have done in the NBA. Good. I just wanted to see a good luck, a text message. I don't even care about a call, a text message. The reason they didn't do it was because of whenever I do an interview, they didn't want me to mention their name, which I would never do before if I didn't get their permission. And then this was the last time I played basketball. It was back in February, and but looking back, everything started with one promise to my mom, and just came till this day. I promise you, I used to call my teammates my brothers. I used to call them my family, but after I have left, I have seen who's my real family or not. I was praying to God every day. And last time I saw my family was back in 2015. I was praying to God every night. I was like, God, please give my family back. And now, I talk about the problems that happened in Turkey, I lost my family. I talk about the problems that happened in China, I lost my career, and I don't regret it at all. But what I've seen today, right? I see people like you guys who care about what's right, who are on the right side of the history, who wants to stand for freedom, democracy, and human rights around the world. And I was like, I was like, God has answered my prayers. Because you guys might not be my mom and dad, whatever, but I do see a big family who are standing up for the right things. So thank you guys, because it does give me so much hope and motivation to fight for what's right. And you guys are making me not regret my decision so much because of your courage, and you just willing to just be here in this room and just listen to me. So with that being said, I want to say thank you guys. I mean, I cannot ask for a better family, better friends, and better buddies, I will say. That's what I call it with my teammates, but I just want to say thank you guys so much, and I appreciate what happened.
So he's not as amazing as you thought. I mean, a true hero.
Yes.
A true hero. He gave up his family, his career, his life. Really gave up everything more than most of us would do. Now we'll take a few questions. I'll have Brian do that in just a second. But as a good Jew, I do two things. One, food. We want the pictures. So we'll bring out the food in a second and we can all take turns. And as a person who's flown in El Al, I'll also know that when the flight attendant tells you not to get up, you all get up and run. So let's try to take turns and take pictures, maybe one table at a time, and eat one table at a time, and be as complacent as we can on that.